Right now, I want to welcome from Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership, Dr. Robert Young is with us. Doctor, how are you, sir?
All right. Happy New Year, Cam.
Happy New Year to you. Appreciate you coming on the program. And I ran across this story last week, a new study in the Journal of the American Medical Association. States that implementing Stand Your Ground in Florida, the Castle Doctrine, is responsible, they say, for a 24.4% increase in homicide in the state, as well as a 31.6% increase in gun-related homicides in the state. Have you taken a look at this study, Dr. Young?
Oh, yeah. Parenthetically, at Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership, we have recruited a panel of experienced academic researchers who are far better at analyzing things statistically than I am, and we are beginning to apply this generally. I noticed that JAMA's Internal Medicine, for the second time, has come up with an issue devoted entirely to what they like to call gun violence since October. We are going to go through all of these with a fine-tooth comb, and we will produce database analysis of each of them. We have a pretty good idea of where these analyses are going to go. On this particular, we'll call it study. I don't want to spend my time doing air quotes on radio.
Sure.
Study, research, all that. Okay. First of all, it's obvious there's something wrong here. Number one, in fact, I wonder, Cam, in the future, if I send out visuals like graphs, can we put those up for people to see while we talk?
Yes, I think we could probably do something like that.
Well, we'll figure that out. Okay. In this case, their graph of these two factors, and let's focus on the gun homicides because there's no way that it's interesting to talk about all homicides in this case, but they're really talking about those by firearm. They actually show, according to their way of graphing, an abrupt uptick at the end of 2005 in these homicides. Now, while that's their central finding, that should make you suspicious because when a new law goes into place, first of all, not everybody even knows about it. And second of all, even if they know about it, it's not necessarily going to affect everybody's behavior all at once. New laws take several years to really show impact. And so the abruptness of it is suspicious anyway, and that should lead one first to ask, well, what else happened in Florida in 2005 or before? It also is interesting in that their own graph shows from that sudden, straight-up increase, a gradual fall-off in homicides thereafter, particularly in the overall homicides. That's just the same rate as it was falling off previously before this uptick.
You know, if I can interrupt for just a second, Dr. Young, because I'm looking at the homicide, and these aren't gun homicides; these are just the homicide stats for Florida. And you're right. Starting in 2000, so in 2005, the overall homicide rate, 5 per 100,000. In 2006, it jumps up to 6.2. 2007 at 6.6, and then it starts dropping again. In 2008, it's 6.3. By 2009, it's 5.5, 5.2, 5.2, 5.2, 5. Then 4.9, 5.1. So there was this 3-year spike, right? And then, as you say, the rate started dropping off again. The law is still in effect.
Oh, yeah.
So if the law was responsible for this spike, then what happened to bring the homicide rates back down?
That's the question, and it's very hard to believe it was just Stand Your Ground. The homicide rate by firearms, which were fairly stable until a similar spike, stayed fairly stable after that. So the active homicides, the rate of change in those is exactly the same before and after. I'm of the opinion that something else, probably several things happened in 2005. One of the things we know, and here I'm acting as a mouthpiece for John Lott, which is a very honorable position to be in because he's the man who's done the good work. The arrest rate for all murders declined sharply from 82 to 67% in Florida in 2005 to 2006. Now, it's not clear to me how that might affect this, but I can imagine it affecting it in a variety of ways, for better or worse. And that's the only thing I know. Otherwise, it changed. But the first conclusion should be something changed dramatically, and it's not about one law that people are still getting used to. Now, they picked New York, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia as their control states, i.e. ones in which they somehow assumed were similar without stand your ground laws. Well, New York and New Jersey and Ohio certainly have nothing to do demographically with Florida's. And Virginia may be more similar, but in fact, they made a mistake. Virginia had stand your ground during their study period, and it did not experience any kind of similar increase. The important thing when you're studying these things is to get as much data as possible. One state does not a national problem make. Although these people have a history of picking on one state or one set of years that comes up with a kind of conclusion thereafter. If you look, again, from Dr. Lott, if you look at all the states that have enacted stand your ground, he did this through 2012, overall, they show an average decline in violent crime and murder. That is the finding that matters, not what happened in one state with a funny-looking graph where you pick arbitrarily states that don't look anything like it to compare it to, and even make a mistake in picking one of those states.
Yeah, you make an interesting point, because the state of Florida overall has seen its violent crime rate drop by something like 40%. Since 2005, it was 708.9 violent crimes per 100,000. In 2015, it was down to 461.9. That's a significant drop in violent crime, as you have, more than 1 million concealed carry holders with stand your ground in place. Robberies, for instance, dropped from 172.5 per 100,000 people down to 104.3. Again, these are pretty amazing drops. And if legal gun owners were so problematic, wouldn't we see this in other crime stats, Dr. Young?
Well, you would think so, wouldn't you? I mean, we're just terrible people, except that somehow we seem to be implicated in crimes far less than even law enforcement officers.
Right. I mean, even aggravated assaults went from like 500 per 100,000 people down to 315.2. I mean, you can't find, that's the lowest crime rate going back to 1970 in Florida.
Right.
In terms of aggravated assaults. That's pretty amazing.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
It is, but will we see much scholarship, you think, in the Journal of the American Medical Association about the effects of right to carry on things like aggravated assaults and robberies in the state of Florida?
Well, we aren't, are we? Their attitude, I think, is very, very well depicted in one article in their most recent broadside against gun ownership, which is an article that's purely a legal discussion about, what can we do to attack gun violence legally through the court system? Now, that's not medical, that's not health related, even by certainly not as a primary discussion. It's a strategy about how to attack gun ownership and theoretically through that violence done by guns. This is not science. It's not a discussion of any kind of research. It's a purely strategic discussion about how to meet the goals they have preset. This is just not objective, and that proves it.
Dr. Robert Young, listen, before we let you go, any advice for folks who, might have to read these studies? What are some of the things that they should watch out for? And what are some sort of tips to spot the BS in some of the stuff that purports to be such solid science?
Well, the easiest way to answer that is to refer to one of my a summary of one of my pieces on DRGO, which I'm looking up here to tell you about. May I say something about DRGO's changes currently, too?
Of course.
Cam?
Sure.
Okay. It's a watershed moment in our history, which is now 24 years old. Dr. Tim Wheeler, who you've talked to many times on your program, who founded it and has led it all that time, has finally decided he can afford to retire from it. Now, he still is going to be available to us and to other people from time to time as the need arises. But we now have our new leadership is in place. It's people you've heard about already. Specifically, Dr. Arthur Prisbinda is going to, I'll spell that for you online sometime, is going to be our project director overall. My role is to be the executive editor of whatever written material come out, and we and a number of other people are going to continue doing interviews like this. Many more people are going to write things. So the system has changed, but the work has expanded and will continue, and we're going to take on problem journals and research like this more and more rigorously and frequently. Now, to answer the question about what to look at, if viewers would like to go to drgo.us and on the home page look under Positions and Resources, they will find a tab called Gun Research. That leads them to a very nice summary of many of the ways that research can be deviated from objective and can be made to come up with almost any finding you want. That's what happens too often, and that's what we're happy to report to you and your viewers anytime.
Well, listen, I certainly do appreciate you coming on the program, and Dr. Wheeler has been a great resource for us over the years, so I hope that he enjoys his retirement, but we certainly are not done with Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership. And, again, with a new push now to treat guns and gun ownership as a public health epidemic, Dr. Young, frankly, voices like yours and other doctors out there are so important. So we look forward to talking with you again quite a bit here in the new year. We'll
be delighted to do that, Kim.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Robert Young is with us with the Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership. Dr. Young, thank you very much, sir. Have a great week.
You too, Cam. Thanks. Bye.
I'll talk to you again soon.